Welcome to Dear Business Coach, the podcast. My name's Elizabeth Walker, your producer and host, bringing you exclusive spotlights, interviews, articles, free resources. This is Dear Business Coach, the podcast. Listen, follow, and the email subscription is at dearbusinesscoachpodcast.com. So access the free magazine each week. All it takes sometimes is one little thing to move your business forward today. Okay. So great. Welcome back to the Dear Business Coach podcast. Deneen, how are you doing today?
I'm well. How are you, Elizabeth?
Fantastic. Let me make sure I am actually recording. Does it say that we are? Okay. Yeah. You know what? This has been a long time waiting for me. I think last time we talked, you were one of my very early first guests. And so I get to say today you're an OKP, an original key player.
All right. Something to add to my CV, right? To my resume.
Yes. Yes. And I stole that term from a comedian, and I think it's a lot of fun when familiar guests get to come back. And you know what, Deneen, when I talked to you last year, I asked you questions about your experience in creating panels and your corporate career, and then what is it like for you now as a podcaster and bringing about voices for women of color through your podcast. So tell me again, the podcast name is still the same podcast, just updated the name a little bit.
So the name is Women of Color in Intimate Conversation. And so it was initially created as a panel in the workspace, right? And that's part of why we talked the second time we had the conversation about panels. And so in 2020, I went ahead and I launched it as a podcast. And so I'm going on 5 years. Yeah, I am going on 5 years, and it's crazy that the time has just flown. But anyway, I invite women on, and we just talk about different aspects of their journeys. And I did something new a few weeks ago. I actually had a conversation with 4 women. So I did my first group conversation, and that's been out. And actually, I'm doing another group conversation today because another guest was like, "Oh my God, I want to do that too." So, so that's kind of fun, right? To juggle having those, because I'm still using my 40-minute format, and so it's just awesome to juggle and to pivot, because the first time we did it, I did 2 different recordings, right? Because I'm like, oh, we'll probably need extra time. And so it's obvious the shift. Like when you listen to the first one, and then when you listen to the second one, you can tell how I shifted, right? I pivoted so that we could get through more questions in that period of time. So it's exciting.
Hey, listeners, don't forget to subscribe to email if you haven't already. Do this at dearbusinesscoachpodcast.com. And if you are a new subscriber, look for the magazine coming up. You can get a free download as a new subscriber. That's dearbusinesscoachpodcast.com. Thanks so much, and I hope you're having a fantastic day. Remember, you are a superstar. It is. I always am. It is very exciting. I am always listening to your podcast for how you do that, and I try to listen for even evidence of editing. Right? Are you jumping around and things? And those are trade secrets, so you don't have to tell me. But I did listen to an interview that you did, I think with 3 people last year, and it was so fast. It wasn't too fast to listen to, but the people that you had on the panel were all in and understood kind of how to jump in, how to take over the microphone and not. And is that maybe something that you just have really fantastic luck with guests and they're experienced, or is that something that you have to work at too as the host?
Yeah, so it is definitely something, it's a both, right? It's probably an and. So I think that maybe what you're referring to, because now I remember, I actually, when I celebrated my 1-year anniversary, I did have several people on, but it wasn't a it wasn't an interview. We were just having a conversation to celebrate the anniversary. But this one that I'm talking about is an actual interview. So like my intimate conversations that I do solo one-on-one, now I was doing it times four, right? Times four. And so like, I definitely had to, like I said, pivot in I don't want to use the word manage, but basically kind of manage the conversations, right? Because otherwise, some people they like to talk and they'll just continue talking, right? and and so like I said, the first one, it was more so of just letting people go ahead and say what they wanted to say. And then unfortunately, you only get through one or two questions because it's 40 minutes, you have four people. And then with the second one, okay, I'm like, let's adjust and I'll be more pointed in the questions that I'm asking, right? So instead of like maybe asking everybody the same question, just maybe asking that one person that question and then managing it that way.
Wow.
Very similar to how I actually do when I moderate panels, right? It's depending on the time, like you may start off by, okay, being a little bit more generous with allowing them the time and space to answer. But then as time is running out, you kind of shift and said, okay, cool, I'm going to ask this person this particular question, that person that question, and move on from there.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to be paying attention for sure. So that's really, really fantastic. And women of color and intimate conversation. So I can follow you on as a podcast. And of course, you have the YouTube channel, which is
Yes.
doing fantastic. And I can see you traveling all over the
Oh,
place. So
yes.
you have behind the scenes, you have live content. So you will even uh, tell us when you landed at the airport and talk about something going on there. And so this is really amazing too. You mentioned artwork in our interview in one of our interviews before, and then I started watching you on LinkedIn starting to talk about it. And then you started to unveil the actual projects. And I think you started out with 100 artists that you wanted to highlight. So how is that going?
Yeah, so thank you for asking. Excuse me, as far as the art, so yes, I actually took a break from LinkedIn for several months, actually probably about 6 months. And then I said, you know what, I'm wanting to really position myself as a thought leader in the art space. And what better way to do that than to tap into LinkedIn? So I came back to LinkedIn and I got very strategic into what I wanted to communicate. Now I still weave in the podcast, right? The podcast itself really has nothing to do with art unless the individual that comes on happens to be an artist, right? But we're talking about their journeys. And again, it has nothing to do with, often nothing to do with art. So I'm still communicating that on LinkedIn, right? So still highlighting. But then also I kind of can weave things in, like with the art. So like for the month of March, I am highlighting Black women artists. And every day I'm posting about a different artist, right? So I'm communicating that. I started Curator Talk Tuesdays. And so this past Tuesday was the second one. And so, I'll do four of those and then probably take a break and then come back or something like that. Right. But it's exciting because I am changing how I do things. Right. I'm doing more of videos. And for me, which is surprising to people, is that me doing a solo video is really me being vulnerable. Now, I don't have a problem with, doing guest interviews, like being interviewed, doing the interviewing. I don't have a problem standing up before hundreds of people talking. But when I'm doing like a solo situation, that is vulnerable, me being tapping into my vulnerability. I don't know why. It is,
Mm-hmm.
but it's like I do. So I'm challenging
Mm-hmm.
myself by doing that. And it is exciting and I'm enjoying the journey. So yes, I'm sharing about artists, I'm sharing about curators, about gallerists. As you mentioned, you've seen on YouTube, I'm sharing when I travel. So travel often, I am traveling and I am attending an art event. So I get to just marry all of those things together.
Right. So now what about events? You have some projects that you're curating on your own too, right?
So I did do two events last year, and I was inspired to do them, or the venue that I chose from attending, well, not attending, but traveling. So I had traveled to LA back in May of 2021. And I love Issa Rae. So for anyone who knows who she is a game changer, media mogul, right? And she's media, coffee shops, restaurants, prosecco, like, right, she's doing all the things. Anyway, she, at the time, she had three cafes, three coffee shops, and I went to each one, and there was art on the wall in every single one, and I'm, oh my God, this is beautiful. So fast forward to now, I'm thinking about curating events. And I said, you know what? I'm going to do my first in a coffee shop, right? Because of that inspiration. And that's what I did. So my first two events, I did them in a coffee shop, and I did enjoy that experience. And then I did curate an event in LA at an actual gallery. So those are the 2.5 events that I've actually curated. And so then I pulled back and I said, you know what? I need to spend more time learning. So I'm in my build, connect, and learn phase. I paused the curation because I'm kind of thinking I may want to pivot. As you mentioned, my goal is to inspire 100 collectors. So not artists, but actual collectors. And so when I had those two events, I priced the art accordingly, right? So $25 to $250 to make it affordable for an individual who doesn't collect, so that they could, right? They would be more willing to spend 25 than 2,500. And then the thing with that is, well, I'm not making money. So I'm putting all this effort into having the events, curating these events, and then not really making any money. So then I had to think, like, what do I need to do so that I'm generating more revenue and I can do that as well? Because I still want that. I still want to reach 100 collectors, right? I still want 100 new people to collect art. And so, yeah, so it's just like now I want to have revenue coming in and then be able to do that. So that's where I'm at in my build, connect, learn phase.
Well, and so you do put out prompts too to your audience on LinkedIn about these uh, vocabulary words, and you ask us, right, what phase are you in? What's the word that you're using right now? And I know from personal experience that you are thinking about that, and you are building community around these ideas. I think that you say you curated an event in LA. I think that sounds like something that I would see in a movie. It sounds like a rom-com situation or something. How did do you have secret connections? How did you get to curate an event like that? Well, actually, let me start over. Both of those are fantastic. The mixed media art space, the coffee house. But just to elaborate, since we're on the show right now, and what did you do to get yourself into an LA art house?
Yeah, which is so that one's very interesting because I attended an event actually April. So April of last year, I went to this event, your your first million live. And so if anyone knows who Arlen Hamilton is, she is a VC, a venture capitalist. And so she had written a book, Your First Million, and she also decided, let me do a live event. So she did a live event. I saw this one person, I kept seeing her, throughout the event. And I'm like, oh, okay, you know how you see somebody and they just stick in your mind. And so then after the event was over, I think I was back home. It was a Sunday. And I had reached out to the person on LinkedIn. And I'm like, yeah, I saw you, but we didn't get a chance to meet. And then we had a conversation. I learned what she was doing in the art space. She was creating like an app to be able to connect artists and gallerists and curators and all the things, right? And I'm like, oh my God, that's awesome. And she also was planning to travel to Europe to do some research. So I'm like, cool, I'm supportive of that. And so she mentioned, you know what, I'm going to do a launch for my business in May, and invited me. And I'm like, cool. And so I decided to go. And, and during the course of her between April and the end of May putting this together, she decided, you know what, I'm going to add this gallery element to it. And so that's how I got connected with her. I was already a co-sponsor. And so then I became a co-curator, right? Because I brought art from 4 different Detroit artists. I brought that along with me. And so that was my co-curating in LA.
Wow. Well, I that collaboration, making yourself available, and then expressing to these people that you find interesting and want to follow. Sounds like you're also really good at telling these folks that you find, hey, I want to support you. How do you do that?
Yeah, you know what? Just by reaching out. And another way, an indirect way of doing it as well, is through highlighting the artist, right? So like I was intentional. So when I started, so last year I started, Wednesdays are dedicated to Black women in art. So every Wednesday I would highlight a different Black woman in art. Again, she's artist, gallerist, curator, doing something in art. Could just be a patron. And so for March, I decided every day I'm going to do that. And it was predominantly Detroiters. I was
Mm-hmm.
very intentional. I live in Detroit, so I'm like, I want to highlight Detroit artists because people don't really know that there is a lot of, artists that have come out of Detroit that are currently in Detroit. And so for this time around, I expanded it to just in general, like they didn't have to be from Detroit. But there were a couple artists that are having some events going on now. So I'm like, you know what? Let me highlight them. And so that to get more traffic to come through. So like there's one tonight, Jen Maples, I highlighted her, I think maybe yesterday or the day before. She has an event tonight and I'm gonna go to that event. I know of her and know of these artists through we have the Detroit Fine Arts Breakfast Club, which is like a meeting of artists and collectors and people who are interested in art, and they meet every Monday. And so a lot of the artists in Detroit, they come through the Detroit Fine Arts Breakfast Club. And so like Jen, I met her, Miriam, who I highlighted the other day, that I met them both through the Detroit Fine Arts Breakfast Club. So we have a community in Detroit of to support the artists, to give them the space, to give them a platform and a stage. And so that's what I did. And so it's being collaborative that way. Like I do own a piece of Jen's work, right? So I acquired one of her pieces and then I support her. Like she invited me to this event and then I'm like, oh, let me highlight her, right? So
Yeah.
it's just kind of like it's really a lot of it is organic and it's about positioning yourself to receive because I do believe in attracting and manifesting. And so
Mm-hmm.
all of that comes into play.
Yeah. Well, thank you. That's it's kind of the thing that I say to myself, well, I wish I could do that. And I know a lot of people say that, I wish I could just reach out to somebody and say, hey, I like your work. And then this extra layer, not extra layer, but the work that you're doing to be involved and being a part of something like the Detroit Breakfast Club, the Artist Breakfast Club, that you have that opportunity, that you found that group is part of why you're able to
Yeah.
collaborate, because you're personally there. Like you said, it's organic. um, so you have said to me before the phrase generational wealth, and
Mhm.
I'm listening to you say, to work out your journey about inserting yourself professionally. How do I make a profit? How do I make art affordable and give it a space for people to have access to it? And does the phrase generational wealth come into your work now, as far as
Oh
in
yeah.
terms of artwork?
Absolutely. So every day, like part of my prayers is like, okay, to create wealth and generational wealth, right? Because you can create wealth and then there's generational wealth, which is on a whole nother level, right? Because it's for generations to come. And so, yes, absolutely. That's another reason why I'm like, okay, I need to find additional revenue streams because of that. Like I have a vision, a long vision. And so me just selling pieces 25 to 250 is not going to cut it, right? And then it's not even just about me, it's also about me being in position to empower, inspire others to do the same thing. So that's another me when I do things, it's not just for me, it's also the impact that I want to have on other people. And so again, that's why I'm like, okay, I need to pivot. I need to think, what more can I do to be more impactful? And so that's part of my journey as well.
Yeah. So did you know when you started saying out loud that you were wanting to highlight 100 Black artists, did you already see that turning into 100 curators as well?
No, I know I didn't, I didn't put any of that together. It was more so about, so in the Black community, there are people who collect, obviously, because as I said, there's a whole community. And the more that you tap into it and talk to people in different places, you find out that there's actually more than you realize. And that's with anything. And so I just do want more people to look at, hey, here's something that you can invest in, right? Because it could be an investment, right? As opposed to maybe going out and getting something material that really doesn't do anything for you. I mean, it may make you feel good and whatnot, but it's not like an investment. It doesn't necessarily last, like, unless it is, right? Because there was a time when I call them gym shoes, but sneakers or tennis shoes or Nikes, right? Those are investments now. They definitely can be investments, and before they weren't, right? So there are things where before we thought, oh, you're just wasting your money on that thing, not necessarily. So it's more about wanting people to think more strategically and intentional about the purchases that they make. So art is one, like, to consider, right? Because that's something that you can pass on, and if you do it right or learn or get the right kind of pieces, you can trade, you can sell, you can, do other things to earn wealth off of it, right? But I really, it's just really more so of a mindset. It does not necessarily have to be, okay, collect art, but reframe, right?
Mm.
Your thoughts. It's more of,
So you yes, and you are sharing original work. You're getting
yes,
the work, you're getting the original work into the hands of new owners who have a personal connection to share it. And that's different than, you're right, just like looking for a print that you like online or something.
correct. Absolutely. No, it's original. It is all original. And that's what I'm saying. Like, a person, you can own a piece of original art for only $25, right? Like, that's
That's
huge. That's
crazy.
right, exactly. And that piece, could actually increase in value. And a lot of it does, and that's why, again, going back to the learning stage, right? For me to be more knowledgeable of what types of things could potentially increase, like, what is popular right now, what is hot, like, what is a print, because before, so with print,
Hmm.
reproduction, I think it's probably just a way of reframing it. So reproductions is what a lot of people have, right? Like, oh, it's 100 of those reproductions. But then there's also prints that are actually a way that an artist creates something. There's different type of prints, lithographs, different things of that. And so that's part of when you spend the time learning, you learn that. So yeah, it's just a reframing, it's just an education, it's just to know. So again, when I'm out and about, having that eye and being able to look at something to see, oh, okay, this is oil, this is acrylic, mixed media, so on and so forth. So yes.
Yeah. What let me make sure I don't get distracted by the time so I don't keep you. I think that you also are specifically interested and inherently understand the value of individual exposure, and like, why was this art created, who's the creator, and what's the message they wanted to put out, and what were they doing and thinking when they created it, and being able to connect that artist with the audience that they want to reach is something that I see Deneen as also being very excited about.
Absolutely. And that's why I prefer to buy directly from the artist, right? So as opposed to through a gallery or a third party of any sort, because I want to ask those questions, right? I want to find out from an individual, like, well, why did you? What was the motivation behind you creating this particular piece? And often, like, when I am making a purchase, I will videotape them answering the questions and whatnot. So yes, I want to, because for me, I'm big on connections and I like to connect with people. I like to get to know, like, okay, what makes you tick? And even in corporate,
Mm.
people on my team, those are things that I wanted to know about them. Like, what makes you tick? Like, what's important to you? What's of value? And one, just to know that about an individual, to connect with them, but then also to better connect with them, right? Because now I may see something that, oh, I think this would be, a good opportunity for Elizabeth, right? Because she said she likes this, that, and the other. Those are things that I keep in my mind. And so earlier when you were asking, well, how are you able to do something in LA? Relationships, right? Connecting with people, learning what it is that they're working on, that they're doing. How does that align with what I'm doing? How can I support them? Staying connected. And also, as far as reaching out to people, the other reason why I was in LA is because I had attended the preview of an opening. So a
Mm.
huge artist was having a preview of her new exhibition. And I slid into her DMs, and said, "Hey, I would like to attend." And she's like, "Come through." So I don't have a problem. Like, I believe in a closed mouth doesn't get fed, right? So I don't have a problem with reaching out to anyone, right? Their titles and none of that has ever stopped me. If I wanted something and I felt that that person could get it, would be the one to uh the decision maker for something, I would reach out.
Yeah. Yeah, and that takes practice and guts and all the things. And well, okay, so big question, right? We're talking about Black art, and I think it's important to ask you if you would share with me, why is Black art important? Why are you not saying everybody's art? Why are you focusing on Black art?
Yeah. So, I mean, just real simple because I'm a Black woman. So, I mean, that's it, right?
Uh-huh.
That is the main reason. And then also, it is something that has been underrepresented, right? And so I want to bring it to the forefront. I want to have more eyes on it, right? And I do want more Black people collecting Black art, right? For those same reasons. And then also as collectors, because it is something, that you can build wealth off of. And it's just a different way for us to do things and just to be aware of those things and to pursue them.
Yes, you have some really, really rich the posts on your LinkedIn page look like a curator, and I don't know how much help you have with that. There's one particular photo collage that I remember that I mean it's been 6 months now, but it was a gentleman in his overalls. He was in his room amongst his paintings and of all sizes, and it looks like a couple of different mediums. And he was holding his tools. He had some brushes. I think he had some cans of materials on the floor. And that is the kind of thing that makes me look at a picture so much longer because you are saying, this is the man who created the art. Here's who I'm highlighting, and here's some behind the scenes things. But there's something about that photograph of that man in his studio with his art that you captured that is very I mean, if I would have thought that was the piece you were highlighting, there's so much story about that person amongst their work. And so I wanted to say that even as I ask you that question, why is Black art important? I want to also highlight, I'm thinking also that you are also showcasing these artists in their element,
Yeah.
as part of their work, as the work.
And you know what? So kudos to you for actually noticing that because
Mm.
the photos that when I'm choosing the collages, I am looking for the artist to be in their element, right? So I always want to feature the artist or the curator, whatever, in their element. So either with art behind them or they're actually, creating themselves and then other, their pieces of art. So I am very intentional when I'm putting those together that I choose a photo. I look for a photo of the individual in action to include.
Yes.
So yeah. So thank you for noticing.
Very cool. It's very cool. I think I have to let you go. I think it's time. And Deneen L. Garrett, your LinkedIn profile is your name. So it's DENEENLGARRETT.
Yes.
Okay. And I know that because I've spelled it with an A, right? I've said I think one of the first times I tried to email you or edit a video, I spelled your name D-A.
Uh,
No, 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 it's D-E.
and the other thing that I do remind people is that I use my middle initial. So it's not Deneen Garrett, it's Deneen L. Garrett. So,
Yeah.
but you're on
Well,
it. You got it.
yay. Okay. Well, thank you so much for talking today. You gave us some secrets that I wasn't expecting, and you're very generous. And please, I hope I get to come to Detroit sometime, and I will have to. Uh, Hopefully, you'll be in town.
Right, right, because that's the key. Am I here?
Alrighty. Well, goodness gracious, what's around the corner from you? We'll find out. Follow Deneen on LinkedIn. And thank you so much. I'll talk to you next time.
Thanks. Bye,
Thank
Elizabeth.
you. Bye bye. Okay, let's see if I can figure this out. Hey, listeners, don't forget to subscribe to email if you haven't already. Do this at dearbusinesscoachpodcast.com. And if you are a new subscriber, look for the magazine coming up. You can get a free download as a new subscriber. That's dearbusinesscoachpodcast.com. Thanks so much, and I hope you're having a fantastic day. Remember, you are a superstar.